Welcome to the Empowered Mind podcast with Joelle and Natalie Rivera. We are on a never-ending quest to master the power of our mind, develop a growth mindset, and explore the leading edge of positive psychology and human potential so we can take radical personal responsibility for creating our destinies and reaching our potential.
So let me ask you, is life happening for you or to you? And this is really a big question. It might seem pretty simple, but depending on how you answer it will really determine how successful you're going to be. Because part of the problem is that if you think life is happening to you, then a lot of times you're the victim in the story. And I'm not saying that, you're not going to go through hard situations where you are the victim to something that happened to you. We're talking about the patterns in your life, right? Not only yours, but maybe the people that you work with or your family or friends, and some of the things that you might be able to look at. So who plays the role of the victim? And I'll give you a couple of characteristics, and maybe you'll resonate with some of them. Maybe you'll look at some people around you and say, yeah, that kind of fits them. The first one is blaming. And the first characteristic is someone that just blames everyone for their problems, right? And that can be like their wife, husband, son, daughter, cousin, neighbor, coworker, boss, whoever it may be. There's always something that they're blaming it on. They never take personal responsibility and say, okay, what could I have done different? Or maybe I haven't created success because I haven't been motivated. Or it's like, I don't feel like doing that because somebody got me frustrated. Or this person did that, so I overcommitted. At the end of the day, though, you have to take control of your life, right? So a lot of people that have this happen to them, they never actually take the time to reflect, what can I control? And instead of just blaming other circumstances or people, what can I do to change my life? What can I do to make different decisions? The other characteristic is justifying. And this is where you act like it's not that important. Like you're okay with it. Like I see this a lot when people are kind of talking about money, where they develop kind of a negative association. They justify their pain for it. Well, money's not really that important to me, or having a relationship right now is not really that important to me, or whatever it is. So sometimes people at their core, for example, it's not that they don't want certain things, not that they don't want a better life, but they justify their pain. And it's not like, you have to choose between one or the other. Some people say, yeah, but if I choose money, then I'm not going to have this, right? Or if I have this, I'm not going to have that. It's not like you have to choose between them, but it's just the realization that you justify where you're at in life. You validate it. You give it power to the misery. Why? Because that allows you to stay as a victim. That allows you not to actually make progress. That allows you to procrastinate, to not actually move forward with your dream, to have an excuse. At the end of the day, a lot of this comes down to, are you looking for an excuse not to succeed? Do you really want it, right? And that's the question everyone has to ask themselves. The third characteristic is complaining. And this is, when people start complaining more about what you don't want, right? And then when you start focusing all your attention, all your energy, everything about the things that you don't want happening in your life. And what happens? You have that part of your brain, the reticular activating system, that if that's all you do, that's all you focus on, then your brain's automatically going to look for those things, right? It's going to look to create more of that because that's what you're giving attention to. Or, that's from a psychological perspective. You might look at it from a spiritual law of attraction perspective, that you're going to attract more of that. Why? Because that's what you're focusing on. So in other words, choose your words wisely. Choose what you're focusing on very wisely. Do you find yourself just constantly nagging, constantly complaining? And if you do, is that really going to help you get to where you want to get to? Is that going to help you really change your life? I'll give you a perfect example. I've, worked with people that they tell me how much they hate their jobs. They hate it. They don't like getting up in the morning, and they complain the whole time if you let them about the whole work experience. So they might leave their job after working hours. They spend 2 or 3 hours complaining about their job. So they're still at work, even though they're not at work, right? But then they play the victim. They blame their boss, or they blame some other circumstances why they can't apply for other jobs or actually work on the resume, put it out there. So instead of spending 2 hours complaining, they're actually, spending their time focusing on what they actually want to create. And then at the end of the day, they're like, well, it's not too bad. It could be worse. They validate that pain. They validate that experience instead of saying, well, it could be better. It should be better. this more of what I want. So what are some of the benefits? Why do people stay in that state of playing the victim? And part of it is that, it's become part of our culture, right? We get attention, and that's one of our deepest things that we want as human beings, is to get attention, also to connect to other beings. So you might find that you might get together with a friend or family member, and you just spend 3 hours, complaining about someone else, playing the victim, blaming someone else, or complaining about life or whatever it may be, or even like looking at, oh, well, that's how life is, or whatever it is, right? So at the end of the day, it also makes us have connection. And the other aspect benefits of it is that, again, it helps us procrastinate. It helps us not move forward. It helps us stay in misery because, that's certainty, right? You already know what's in misery, but you don't know what happens when you leave misery. Might be a totally different experience. You don't know what that looks like, and that can be scary. So what do you do to start changing the victimhood, right? The first step is to look at blame. Instead of blaming other people, when you catch yourself blaming other people, tell yourself, okay, what can I do different here? What do I have in my control? You can't change people, right? You can change how much time you spend with people. Maybe if it's your coworker and you work next to each other, maybe you can't change necessarily how much you see them, but maybe you can change your perspective about it. Maybe you can change the way that you interact with them. So instead of blaming them, what can I control and take responsibility? Also, when you catch yourself, really justifying, then really looking at that and saying, is this what I really want? And if it's not, dream about what you want. Look at that and say, it's not okay. This is not what I want. I want to create something different. And again, instead of spending the other time complaining, again, write these things down. Jot them down when you find yourself doing this. Ask yourself, why are you complaining? And then reaffirm something. Have already something that you can be grateful for. And this could be something as simple as starting a journaling about gratitude. One of the things that I always did for a long time, and I used to write things that I was grateful for. Now, I don't write them down so much, but at the end of the night, as I'm falling asleep, I do, look at my day and things that I'm grateful for that day. And then I think about what I'm going to be grateful for the next day. Okay, I'm not perfect, so I have my moments too, right? But the reality is that the more that you do that, the better it's going to be for you to kind of shift from complaining to looking at opportunities, to looking at things that you could be grateful. And the more grateful you are about life, the easier it is going to be create more of the things that you want. Because then you start shifting that. Then you start looking for other things in your life. You start attracting different things. Your brain starts focusing on different things. And then you're in the right direction of creating the life that you really want and deserve.
Thank you, fellow Freedom Junkies, for listening. If you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. And if you want to help us grow, please rate and share this podcast. You can also become a member of Freedom Nation. Visit freedomorbustpodcast.com and sign up to receive access to exclusive content and take the 21-day happiness challenge. As you know, we believe that entrepreneurship is the ultimate form of empowerment, which is why we created the Side Hustle Business Startup course for anyone looking to create their own income and take back their power. We offer an exclusive discount for our podcast listeners. Find out more at freedomorbustpodcast.com.